Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on PoliWine, where we like to take a deep dive into stories pulled from the media and have a fun time while breaking it down. I'm Jillian, and let's get into it. So, this past weekend, we had the Big Bowl in the Big Easy, and that was a Super Bowl. It was the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles, and if you placed a bet, I sure hope you placed it on the Eagles, because if not, that was a long and painful game for you to have to endure if you were a Kansas City fan or if you placed a bet on Kansas City. I don't know what happened, but it was a blowout, an absolute blowout. The final score was 40-22. Eagles win. And trust me, the city of Philadelphia went all out in celebration. For Philadelphia standards, pretty mild. From what I understand, only one lamppost was really destroyed, but they love to do a little bit of destruction. They get a little excited in Philly, and well, pretty mild, but still, streets were filled. The party was lively, and congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. Well deserved, well deserved, and great game on your end. I mean, you didn't let much slide. What do you think about the halftime show? Kendrick Lamar performed. What did you think? Did you like it? Well, my thoughts. I thought vocally, I thought he was really, really good. Sometimes when there's live performances, sometimes the sound quality, I think, is not always the best. You don't hear them so clear. I thought that was all great. So vocally, sound quality, I thought he was spot on. Performance-wise, in my personal opinion, I was a little underwhelmed. I mean, the dancers were great. I think the concept was cool. Of course, it was really good to see Serena Williams dance. I mean, you can pretty much do anything you want, I would think, in the halftime performance. But, I was just thinking it back from like previous performances. You had Rihanna floating through the air. I was thinking about Prince when everything was purple and there was like pyrotechnics everywhere. And same with like, they were showing clips of the one from like Michael Jackson in the 90s. I think they said it was like 93, and there was just fireworks going off everywhere. I was thinking about Gaga years ago, Usher, roller skating last year, Beyonce. I mean, even Katy Perry. Wasn't a huge fan of Katy Perry's performance, but at least she gave me the shark dancing, which was very entertaining. So performance wise, I was a little bored, but I thought he sounded great. Here is a fun fact, since we love talking reality TV shows so much on PoliWine. I'd like to bring up a little Super Bowl fun fact that one of the dancers in Kendrick Lamar's performance was Benny from 90 Day Fiance, and he's actually on this season of 90 Day Fiance, the last resort where the couples come together and try and work on the relationship, because he married Ari. Now, if you remember Benny was the Ethiopian dancer who met Ari, the young girl from Princeton, New Jersey. They met while she was traveling, and they hooked up and she got pregnant. And it really is a mismatch, in my opinion, of marriages. It almost, to me, it seems like it's almost an arranged marriage. It just, they are not compatible, in my opinion. I don't even think they really like each other. I think they're just trying to make something work that's never going to work. But they have a kid, so I guess there's the effort. But it's I think this is a hopeless cause. But Benny was one of the dancers in Kendrick Lamar's performance, so I think that was really cool. I saw some pictures of him online after the show, with him standing next to Samuel L. Jackson, who was also part of the halftime performance. And everybody has a different opinion. Some people loved it, some people hated it, some people in the middle. I just thought there could have been more. Like you said, we've seen so much from other halftime performances, over the top, things flying in the air, pyrotechnics going off anywhere, and I just didn't really see a lot of that. But cheers to the dancers. The dancers were really cool. I liked it, but I just thought we could have had a little bit more. And also, what did you think about the commercials? Right? From what I have read, and I got to tell you, I was in and out of the game, so I didn't really catch a lot of the game or the commercials, but I did see the halftime performance, of course. So I did get to see, of course, the Harrison Ford commercial, who was for Jeep. Very good commercial. Very all American. But of course, the Budweiser, from what I've read, the Budweiser Clydesdale, took the number one prize. I also read that the fan favorite was the Caesars commercial. There you go. So I don't know what your favorite was, but I also wanted to say I didn't really kind of get that one. There was one that really bothered me almost. It was the one for Tubi. And that was where the hats were part of their head. I thought that was really weird. It's like you can't unsee it. And maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know how it related in the commercial. I didn't really get it, but they aired that commercial a lot. So they must have spent a pretty penny on that campaign, but that was the one I didn't really get. But Tubi, you went all out on that commercial. That's for sure. But Budweiser, again, takes the cake. And the Nike commercial about girls in sport, that was awesome. A great commercial. Also, there was also another really weird story that came out from the Super Bowl. There was a journalist for Telemundo that was sent to New Orleans to cover the Super Bowl, and he was there covering it for I believe, and please anyone correct me if I'm wrong, a Kansas City affiliate, and I think he was from Topeka, and he was sent to New Orleans to cover this Super Bowl, and nobody could get a hold of him. He didn't show up for work. He was kind of missing. So they ended up finding him dead in his hotel room. Now, upon the investigation, there is video footage of this one woman, con artist and theft, if you will, that has drugged people in the past. And she was seen in this hotel. They have now had evidence of her using this man's credit card recently. So this woman is known as the Bourbon Street Hustler. And like I said, that she has had a history of drugging men and stealing from them. And they are trying to see if there's a link between this woman and this reporter that was found dead. It's just a really sad story. He's there, but the investigation is ongoing. They do not know if this woman is linked yet, but again, the investigation is going on. But it's just kind of crazy. And you see video footage of, you don't see them together, but she's walking near him. Maybe they could have run into each other at the bar. We don't know, but the police are asking if anybody has seen anything or has any information. From what I had read, the ticket prices were down this year. A lot of people were not, from what I have been reading, because I wanted to see what people's opinions were online about the Super Bowl. Did they like it? You know, yes, it was a blowout in the game, but what did they think of the commercials? And what did they think of the halftime performance? And overall, what were their views? Because like I said, there was a record number of viewers. And from what I could find, of course, it's a mix, but overall, not everybody was thrilled with this this Super Bowl. I mean, not a lot happened. It was kind of a boring game. There was not a lot of enjoyment over the commercials. People thought it was just kind of fell short. Not, a lot of people were not pleased with the halftime performance. I didn't say that was my opinion. Some people loved it, but some people overall were not thrilled. When I was on TikTok earlier, I heard so many videos, and this is on Instagram too, and just clips in general, that people were just like, it was the most boring game I've ever seen in my life. So I just think you need to bring a little bit more of the halftime show. So many people that don't watch the game, you know, so people who do not enjoy the sport of football, they do turn in to watch the halftime performance. So go all out. Go all out. And of course, there was all that hype leading up to the halftime show. Is Kendrick Lamar going to perform Not Like Us? Is he going, and if he does, is he going to perform the key line where he refers to Drake? And he did. Did he leave out the word pedophile? He did. I'm sure that was a nice little loophole that he could get through. But he did. Everybody, of course, included in the song in the word minor. But I mean, I thought his voice sounded great. I just wish you could have given me a little bit more, like some, I don't know, lasers or something behind the dancers. Now, last time we were on the show, we were discussing those awful plane crashes, the one that happened in DC, then the one that happened in Philadelphia, and the wreckages have been pulled out of the Potomac River in the DC crash with the military helicopter and the airplane, and then the investigation is still going on there. The investigation is also going on into the plane crash in Philadelphia. But that was just last week. And now we're having all these other stories coming out. Now, you just had this story about the that plane crash in Alaska, in Nome, Alaska. Now, from what I understand, that in that part of the world, like, you have to take a lot of those little small planes to get from one area of Alaska to another. So I know that those little planes are quite common. But there was a small plane crash. No survivors, 10 people were killed in it. So we just had that recent plane crash just a couple days ago. Then in Scottsdale, Arizona, Motley Crue band member Vince Neil, his jet crashed into another jet landing. They think that at this point that it was something went wrong with the landing gear, and an investigation is going on. One person was killed in that plane crash, and they think that it was the pilot. I couldn't find any name released yet, but as of early reports, it sounds like it was probably the pilot that was killed in that, which was just terrible. But Vince Neil was not on the plane, but his girlfriend was, and she sustained, I think they said, like 5 broken ribs. Lucky to have survived that. I mean, if you see that video of that plane just ramming into the other one coming in, the fact that anybody survived really is a miracle. But geez, I just, another plane crash. And then, not only that, then you hear about today. And then where was it? In Seattle Tacoma Airport a couple days ago, 2 airplanes clipped one another taxiing on the runway. Okay, that's 3. And then today, there was a military jet that ended up crashing into the ocean right off of right into the Bay of San Diego. Insane. And when I was listening to the news, hearing about this military jet that crashed, and from what I understand, the pilots ejected right away, and it was like so close that they had to eject that it could have easily gone into a residential area, this plane, and oh God. But from what I understand, the pilots have been recovered. They were recovered by water. But I mean, like, there's video footage of it just like nosediving straight down in the water. I was thinking to myself, because when I was watching the news, they kept talking about how close it was to residential area. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, hasn't this happened before in San Diego, where there was a military jet that crashed in a residential area? So I looked it up in the news, and sure enough, there was, in December 8th of 2008, a military jet crashed into a residential area right there in San Diego. And San Diego has a huge military base out there, but too close and not again. So too many airplane accidents, and they're always told air travel is the safest form of travel. It's safer than, being in a car. It's safer than, being in a train. I'm not really feeling that way anymore. And that's if you get there safely. Is the plane safe itself? Because then we had all the stuff that happened with Boeing, with the doors flying off and windows cracking open. And so I don't know what's happening in aviation, but I don't know if it's TSA, the was it the American Aviation? I don't know what it is. They need to figure something out because this is problematic. This is a major, major crisis. And there's so many changes happening in the administration. It's just a mess. So airline travel, I hope some serious changes can come because there's just too many accidents and too many incursions and almost incursions happening way too often. I mean, last year I feel like there was so many stories coming out in the news of almost misses of airlines, of planes almost missing one another within like 100 feet. And it's just happening too often. So something major has to happen. We've already had a tragedy happen just last week. But I fear that if some major change doesn't happen right away, something worse can happen. So moving along into some other news. Just talking about changes happening with the new administration. What can anybody tell me what happened yesterday in the Oval Office? Like every time I turn on the news, I just don't even know what to think. It's like like I said, I talked about it the other day. When you see breaking news, I kind of used to give flack to like the standard news stations, like breaking news again. It probably broke yesterday. So how's it still breaking? Oh no. Not anymore. With this new administration, like I can't even keep up. And like I even said to somebody the other day when I was watching the news, I'm like, I feel like this one journalist has been out on the front lawn of the White House for about 2 days. Like it's just constantly breaking news. Something's changing. They can't leave because every time they go to leave and pack their bag, there's another news story that comes out and they have to go right back into the White House. I mean, it seems chaotic, does it not? And speaking of chaotic, what happened in the Oval Office yesterday with Elon Musk? Okay, no, look, I'm just going to completely bypass what they were talking about. Okay. We can talk about Elon's role in the government. If you like it, if you don't like it, we can talk about that. We can talk about that another day. I am talking about the utter shit show that was inside the Oval Office. All right. Not only do you have Elon Musk talking, I was like flabbergasted the whole time. Like, I do not recall in my life when someone else is speaking on behalf of the President of the United States from the Oval Office. I'm just thinking to myself, do you Elon Musk, I thought you were supposed to be a genius. Do you not know that you're already taking ownership over this role that you're taking on for Trump? And if it fails, you are the fall guy. It's like you're putting yourself and preparing the altar to be the sacrificial lamb, like in my opinion. Do you not remember his past? Anybody that's ever been close to this man has gone down, and he walks away scot-free most of the time. Not always, most of the time. But look at all the people that surrounded him before. Hasn't ended up well for him. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, Elon Musk, do you not know this is not going to end well? At some point, whatever you guys are planning, and it doesn't seem like there's really a plan. They're just trying to go in and figure it out as they go along, which is no plan and sounds like awful strategy. And, and then if it doesn't go well, it's going to make Trump look bad and he's going to blame you and you are going to be the fall guy. This relationship is not going to end well. This is all I could think to myself. And then as I'm thinking all this, you just see Elon Musk's little son, who is an adorable little boy. His son was so cute. But then as they're having a very serious conversation, and you can even tell his like Elon Musk was like, everybody's so quiet. Was it Elon Musk that said that or Trump that said that? He's like, everybody's so quiet. Are you guys always this quiet? Because you can just tell like the reporters are so perplexed. And the two men standing off to the side of Elon Musk you had Stephen Miller, and I don't know who the other guy was. Is that Stephen Miller's cousin? I don't know. They look oddly alike, but they just stood there off to the side, weird, odd, like two, I don't know, minions. I don't know. Very, very weird how they were just, that whole scene was just weird. But as Musk is being asked very serious and extremely important questions by the journalist, you see his son, again, adorable, suddenly start to do the nose, like full finger to the second digit, all the way up the nostril. Now, this has happened before with many politicians' children. I want to say, was it like Giuliani's one son? Was it years ago? I think was caught doing it. I think it was him. There's been a couple kids that have done it. And I immediately thought the first time I saw this kid on camera, I'm like, oh, he's really cute. But why do they have a small child there during an extremely important topic? You know, wherefore you call the press. Trump doesn't even have his own grandkids in the picture, right? Like, he did it like the RNC and stuff like that, but I don't think you've ever seen him like in the Oval Office during a major press conference. And sure enough, this is what I'm thinking to myself. And as I'm thinking this, I'm like, do you see the kid in the finger up the nose? And then he starts like digging for full diamonds up there, like tickling the cranium full on. And you can obviously tell by the kid's reaction, because he's just happy, just on camera, eating it up, literally. And somebody obviously behind the camera was telling the kid to stop picking his nose, like, stop it, you're on camera. And then the kid starts like yelling at that person, like, no, you. And you know, you can see that everybody, like, you can see Trump starting to notice that's the kid's doing something mischievous. And then you can tell that Musk is starting to realize that his kid's doing something. They're all looking down. So then he starts to pick him up. And then the kid, oh my God, starts really messing with Elon Musk. He's messing with his hair. He's sticking the fingers in his ears. He starts picking his nose again. And then somebody behind the camera is like, stop it. You got to stop it. You know, here you are, finger up the nose again. And the kid starts going, yeah. And first of all, my other thought was like, okay, that is obviously, to me, a child of privilege. And this is my thought process, in my opinion. Because I was like, if my parent did that to me back in the day, or if I did that to my kid or any child that I know, if I was like, you better get the finger out of your nose, that kid would put that thing down and just like smile. That kid is obviously, in my opinion, a child of privilege, because the kid started yelling back at, you know, somebody older than them. I thought that was so rude, but oh my God, but I couldn't help. I was dying in hysterics because I'm like, what is happening in the Oval Office? Where is the decorum of the Oval Office? What is happening? Like I said, the journalists seem obviously perplexed. They're just trying to process in what's happening. They start asking questions. I mean, it was just such a weird thing to me. And as this kid's picking his nose, the other thing that pops into my head is like, oh my God, Saturday Night Live obviously has their opening skit. You know, because they usually go political, right? Most of the time. And all I could think of was like, oh my God, this is the opening skit for Saturday Night Live. Who's going to play the kid picking the nose? Who is going to do it? It's going to be great. And also, on that note, this weekend is it airs the 50th anniversary special of SNL. So if you have a chance to watch it, SNL airs its 50th special. It's going to look back on some of the best skits, some of the best actors, just a little bit behind the scenes, the writers, the actors, performers, the guests. If you really like SNL, it should be a good watch. And also, this weekend, let's not forget, go to HBO Max. It is the season premiere of season 3, White Lotus. So, White Lotus, always good. It's in Thailand, looks really cool. Always a good watch. So, it's going to be a good weekend. And hopefully, and also this weekend, we should have the part 1 of the reunion for the Real Housewives of Potomac. I also want to talk a little bit about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. A lot happened this episode. You got to see a little bit with Bose and her relationship. It's really Erica brought up an interesting conversation when they were having a girls' night out with Dorit, saying, I find it interesting that you guys are talking about, and this is Bose and her boyfriend, that you're talking about having children, but yet you haven't even exchanged the words "I love you" yet to one another. So interesting approach, but hey, whatever works for you works for you. And if you watch the after show on Peacock, and I gotta tell you, the after shows have recently become some of my new favorite shows, because it's kind of like the cliff notes of the show, but then you get everybody's opinion involved, which is much better, and a little bit of the never seen footage and some of that different takes. I kind of like that a little bit better sometimes than the show. I tend to, on a lot of the shows, just go straight to the after show. Sorry. It's a little bit better. She does say, Bose, that on the after show that now they say it to each other all the time, but I guess at that point, maybe they were in the relationship, like who says it first? I don't really know, but that's where they are. But now they say it all the time. And she said that the relationship is stronger than ever. And, it's moving forward. So congratulations, Bose. I hope everything stays strong. It stays on the path. And, I really hope you get everything you want. And that conversation that Bose had with her daughter about how do you feel if I have another child? And wow, for a teenage girl and relatively young teenage girl, I think they said she was 14, extremely mature thought process, extremely mature response and attitude. And I was like, wow, Bose. I mean, what a special girl. Really. I was shocked. And it sounds like Bose was shocked as well. You still have the whole thing with Dory going on. You didn't see, Erica's still in that supportive role. And I like that this year. She's kind of taking a step back and watching everybody else stuff kind of blow up, but she's there to help support when needed. It's a good role. The whole thing with Sutton going back home to Georgia to work out some of the issues with her mom, Reba. Oh, Reba is tough. And, I rarely ever agree with Kyle. But every time Garcel's like, I think I'm going to talk to Reba. I'm going to do this with Reba. Kyle's facial expression and reaction is like, what are you guys going to talk about? Like, why are you doing that? Priceless. I was like, why? I mean, okay, Garcelle, you've already had a little taste of Reba, and she's salty and prickly, right? So I would not approach this topic that's really out. I know it's out of love for your friend Sutton, but really out of kind of boundaries for you, in my opinion. Like, this is a family matter, not a friend matter. And Reba put her in place real fast, like letting her know. She was like, well, I don't mean to be disrespectful. And Garcelle approached it very gingerly when she came to Reba, which is Sutton's mom, and said, I know that you and Sutton love each other and you kind of have a strained relationship, but as somebody who adores your daughter, I know it pains her that she doesn't hear you say the words, I love you, I'm proud of you, and acknowledge her accomplishments. And Reba was like, well, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I don't really think that's any of your business. And I was like, well, there is definitely no hiding Reba's feelings. I mean, she said, I don't mean to be disrespectful. It's none of your business. True. And Garcelle was like, you're right. And I think Garcelle started to do a little bit of cleanup quite nicely. She was like, the only reason I say that is because I've lost a parent and, nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. And I would do anything to be able to say something to them again, just anything. And I look back at all those missed opportunities, and I would give anything to have that chance again. And Ree was like, I understand that, but not really any of our relationships, not really your concern. And that's something we'll deal with. And then Sutton and her mom ended up having a conversation, and Reba's still tough. She's like, look, I don't think I'm an old school woman. I was raised in the tough South. I was raised, prim and proper, and it's just how I was raised. We don't tell each other every second of the day, I love you. I don't have to tell everybody a million times how proud I am of you. It's kind of understood. I'm your parent. Of course I love you. I'm naturally proud of you. Even though we're very different. I said, of course I naturally love you. And I don't understand why I have to please you to constantly say that. That's just not who I am. And I think there was definitely a coming together and some resolution there. But yeah, Reba's tough. And then they were doing so it was talking about the after shows. The after show where Garcelle, Sutton, and Jennifer Tilly, which these three are amazing together. Jennifer Tilly asked Sutton a few questions, and she psychoanalyzed everything like that, and she got it down. She was like, I think that Reba's kind of deflecting, and there's a little bit of resentment that you had a closer relationship with your father than you did with her, and that still sits hard. And whatever relationship your dad and your mom had, it was complicated. And I'm paraphrasing here. And then they showed clips from, was one of the first, was it the first season Sutton was on, and where Sutton had opened her store and flew her mom out to be there for the opening. And she was like, Mom, I just want you to be proud of me. I want you to see all the hard work I put into it. And she's like, okay. And then she starts talking about the situation with dad. And she's like, Sutton, I don't miss your dad. And you're like, oh, okay. Now, I don't know what the relationship was, but, Reba is hurt. Reba's got some rough emotions still there. And she's holding on tight, and she's not letting go of those yet. And the after show, I think, really broke that down. And I think it really gave Sutton a different kind of perspective to look at her mom. That was a tough scene, though. That was a tough scene with her and her mom, but her mom's tough. And it does make you understand a little bit more of kind of how Sutton is when she becomes a little sharp and stuff like that. But again, I still love my Sutton this year. I still love my Garcelle. I still love Bose. And Jennifer Tilly, again, God, she's a gem. She's a gem. So now I want to talk about another show I haven't talked about in a really long time. That's because somebody told me, they're like, have you seen the most recent episode at Married at First Sight? And I said, I have to be honest, I kind of tapped out a little while ago into the season because I myself was a little bored. I didn't really think a lot was happening. And everyone knows that Married at First Sight Australia is my favorite. It's so good. Those dinner parties are so good. And so they're like, well, just if you have a chance, tune into the most recent episode. And I think it was called Cheatin' Lies or something like that, or something in Lies, where they all go to the couple's retreat. Retreat in Lies. That's what it was. Retreat in Lies. And that's where they go there for the couple's retreat. And okay, my friend, you were right. Very, very good episode. And again, the after party was much better. So in this season, there's a lot of, I forget how many couples there were, but the hot topic was there is this one couple, and I want to make sure I get it right. Madison is married to a guy named Allison. Madison is, she has a little bit of a wild streak in her. She's pretty. She's athletic. You can tell she's very fit. She goes to the gym all the time. She's muscular. And her now husband, now again, they're all arranged. She is different, super nice, all American guy, not really a major athlete or active, fit kind of guy, but he's like, I'm willing to do it from her. And kind of shy. I don't want to say geeky. I don't think he's geeky. I want to say somebody referred to him that way. I don't know if it was himself or a friend of his in the beginning. So he's married, and I think you can tell right away that it's just not really into him. Like, and this guy's really trying, like, he's really into her, and he is taking this whole experiment of an arranged marriage very seriously. And he's putting in all this effort, all this time, and you can tell, like, he's really developed feelings for this girl. Her, not so much. You can tell from the get-go, she's not interested. She's not interested. There's no spark. And she wants to try, I think, for camera. But honestly, I don't think she really sees it going all the way. I don't think so. Now, that's one couple. There's another couple called Michelle and David. Now, from the get-go, I think you could tell that Michelle really wasn't into David. David's in his 30s, and David still lives in his mama's house in his basement. Okay, so I think that immediately was a turnoff. And I don't think she was, and the spark was not there for her right away, but I think she was willing to try and put the work in. Now, along the way, David was like, well, I'm not getting the attention and affection that I'm putting into this relationship. You're not reciprocating that to me. So therefore, I'm kind of checking out. And she found some text messages on his phone to someone else. And she's like, who are these text messages for? And he was like, well, they were for you. And she's like, these are definitely not for me. And that's what he keeps telling her. So I guess throughout the season, and I had to kind of go back and clip it. I haven't watched all the other episodes. I watched this past episode where they are at the retreat, and then I watched the after party. Okay. Like I said, the after party is amazing clip notes. So they were at the retreat, and for episodes leading up, like between Michelle and David, she's like, these text messages are not sitting right with me. I know they're not for me, even though that he's telling me for me. I feel like he's kind of taken a step back in the relationship. I'm trying to put more work in. He's kind of, he was blaming her. Like, you weren't giving me the attention I need. So it's your fault. It's your fault. I'm stepping out because it's your fault. Worst excuse, but that's essentially what he was doing for her. And she was just like, and again, how many times did I say that when they're doing something wrong, they blame the other person, make them look crazy, get everybody else agitated with them because they make them look crazy because they're frustrated, right? And I'm talking about Michelle in this situation. Come to find out what David was doing something dirty. Now, they were at the retreat. And Michelle was playing this game, and she's like, I'm telling you girls, with the other girls going, something's not sitting right. And you could tell the girls were like, annoyed. And suddenly Madison gets up, just agitated. She's like, I just can't play this game anymore, which was really weird and just rude. And I was like, well, what the hell was that all about? Like, we're playing this game. We're trying to help each other out with our relationships because we're all in this similar situation. Right? We're all going through a similar experiment together. And I just heard you out, but yet you can't hurt my situation. Like, that's pretty messed up. Right? And when Madison did that, another bing, red light went off and So Michelle goes up to, and then, of course, then Michelle to the other group's like, look, I hear you, Madison, but something's not right with this situation. And the fact that you had that reaction, I find weird and bizarre. And the fact that you just dismissed me, I'm kind of not understanding, but now these red lights are going off. Something's not adding up. So Michelle goes to Madison's husband, Alan. She's like, Alan, look, the night of these text messages, David was out with your wife, another wife, and somebody else. They were out as a group, where they all go out as a group sometimes, and sometimes some people go along the way and some people stay and hang out. And that night he was with Madison. Do you think that these text messages were for her? And like, Alan's like just cooking. He's the guy that's manning the grill and the stove that night, and he's cooking. And you can see as soon as Michelle starts to ask him, it starts to set in, like, he starts to question some things about the relationship and things that just didn't seem right with him and his relationship with Madison. And she was like, look, maybe I'm wrong. I think she handled this, Michelle, as delicately as she could, because when your whole world is kind of crumbling, right? And she was like, do you think that there's something to it? I could be wrong. Like, I don't want to be right in this situation. I want to be wrong, but like, my gut is telling me, like, I think they're for her. And do you think there's anything to it? And the only reason I'm coming to you, because I need to know if I'm wrong, because everybody thinks I'm crazy in this situation. David's told everybody I'm crazy, and I'm just asking you because maybe I'm not crazy and maybe there's something to it, but what do you think? And you could see, like, it start to settle in, him start to question those things, and you could start to get him, you could see him getting emotional. She's like, look, why are you getting emotional? Like, do you think there's something to that? Like, do you think there could be something to that statement that maybe they were for her? And he's like, I don't really think so. And so Michelle and Madison go in and have a conversation together, because what I didn't say is before this, like, Michelle started questioning with Madison, and Madison's like, oh no, like, we've texted before, we've gone to the gym. But it was nothing like these text messages were not for me. And so she's like, I'll even show you. And when she went to show her the text messages, all of the messages were gone. And Michelle was like, well, you guys said that you text and stuff like that about the gym, but now suddenly you have no text messages. Like, that's a little suspicious, right? So they have a conversation and it just seems weird. And then Madison walks away, and this producer goes up to her and he's like, Madison, is there any truth to that? And Madison's like, yeah, maybe there is. And so she cracks. So then the house is a whole kerfuffle. Like, production's going all over the place. And then David pulls Alan aside. And he was like, look, now this conversation was very, very uncomfortable. Very, very uncomfortable. Where David pulls Alan aside and was like, well, I just want you to know that I've been vibing with your wife, and we have a better connection than you two have, and we have a better connection than I have with my wife. So, we're vibing, and yeah, I was texting her, and those text messages were for her. They were not for my wife. They were for your wife. And Alan, like, loses his shit. Rightfully so. And he was like, look, I knew something was wrong, and I am pissed off at you for you doing this to me because I thought you were a friend. But not only that, I'm pissed off at my wife because I knew something was wrong. I knew she wasn't that into me. And instead of being honest with me, and he was like, literally have given her an out every single day. I've given her an out, and she's lied to my face. She told me that she's in it, that she's going to keep trying, that there's still time, and she still wants to see how this thing evolves. And here she is to find out, texting you, and she's into you, and it is dirty. He just blows up, loses his shit, says several expletives to him, as he should. And I'm sorry, David looks like the biggest ass in this. And he blows up and he goes storming off, and he's going to leave. And then this one guy and girl goes to comfort him. They're like, he should not be driving. He's angry. I don't know if he had a drink or so in him. I have no idea. But they're like, he should not be driving. So we need to go check on him and just make sure he's safe and in an okay headspace. And then David goes to talk to his wife and he's like, blame Michelle. And he's like blaming her for it. This guy is such a douche. And Madison let all of this be a red flag. If the flag wasn't big enough that he's in his 30s and still lives in his mother's basement. And let's not forget that whole scene when he actually showed Michelle his basement. You know, when they take the new spouse to go see where they live, their living arrangement. And he took her in that basement. He was like, this place is so awesome. It is so fly and it's a dump. So that should have been the biggest flag of all. And it was for Michelle. But I got to tell you, Michelle, with this whole situation about these text messages and it not adding up, she was like a dog with a bone. And she was giving me Stassi Schroeder season 1 Vanderpump Rules when it came with Jax having that little tryst with that girl in Vegas and possibly getting her pregnant. Remember when she was all over the text messages and he was lying to her and she was putting the thing together? Yes. So Michelle was giving me Stassi season 1 Vanderpump Rules. That girl should be a PI. It was so good. And here's the thing, the fact that he made her look crazy, that is, I swear to God, a default mode for a lot of guys. This is such BS. So all women, we need to support each other and also tell our daughters, our nieces, every young girl about this move that men do to you. It's the blame game. Or something, or you think I'm doing something suspicious? You're crazy. As soon as they do that, just know they're doing something wrong. That is my advice to you girls. Brace yourself, okay? He's doing it. Next time we join on PoliWine, I want to talk about Santorini. I want to talk about more of the Diddy stuff. We're going to get more into reality shows. What's going on in politics? I can't wait to break it down. So thank you so much for joining us today on PoliWine. Please follow us on Instagram at PoliWine Time. And please follow, like, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast on your feed. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.